One thing I love is that you have been off social before,
Yep.
completely not using it for your business.
Yep.
Now, I believe it was a year-long sabbatical that you took, but can you dive into what that was like? Oh, 3 years.
3 years, depending on
3 years.
which social platforms you look at. Yeah, it was 2001 to about 2004 that I stopped Instagram, just cold turkey stopped. Like it just wasn't worth the effort. I was putting time and energy into it, not seeing anything. And then about a year after that, I was on YouTube really consistently. A year after that, got very sick with long COVID, like full bed rest, had to stop all content. And it was at first I'm like, it's not going to be a big deal. I had batch created. I was far in advance. I'll be fine by the time by the time it's time to make new content. That didn't happen. I am still dealing with some long COVID stuff, but it actually turned into some other health stuff. And it really was, in hindsight, when you can look back at something and say that was really a gift, it was really a gift. It allowed me to step back from social, which I was kind of burning myself out on. It allowed me to reassess my marketing plan, to do some different things. I stayed off of that for about 2 years. And then I just started in the last 6 months or so going back on different platforms, kind of testing things out, playing with things, and gearing back up to do more. I do plan to start doing a lot more, but those 3 years were amazing. Like I always tell people, like, social media and content marketing is both the best thing that's ever happened to business owners because it's so accessible, and the worst thing that's ever happened to business owners because it takes so much time and energy from you. And as a business, you have the rest of your business to run. Like, you're not an influencer who that's your full-time business. And so I loved being off of it. I am reluctantly back on it. I like it for certain reasons, but I go into it with a very different mindset now. And I still, with all of my clients, with all of my students, I'm still always encouraging them to assess whether or not they can create a business plan without it, because a lot of people can. A lot of people can get away with it. And I think as business owners, that's really important, just so that we have some semblance of work life balance and we are not constantly on our devices on every platform all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about what taking a sabbatical did for your business or did to your business. Like, what
Yeah.
were some of the pros and cons of that? What growth did you see?
The first year taking off, I didn't see any negative change at all, mainly because the majority of my content was SEO optimized. So I was on YouTube, I had our YouTube stuff on our blog, everything was search engine optimized. And so although we were seeing fewer views overall, like we didn't see as much growth, we were still having a lot of growth because I had 5 years of content on there of doing 1 to 2 videos a week, no short form at the time, just long form, but really focused on SEO, focused on keywords that my audience was searching for. So even though it wasn't like viral content, I'm still getting constant leads coming in. Every single one of my videos was linked to a lead magnet, a free class, something, so people are coming into my newsletter. And I was really just focusing on nurturing the newsletter, nurturing relationships one on one. So that first year didn't really see anything, which was fantastic. Did a little bit of shifting, with the time that I had, because I didn't have the energy to put into being on video, right? You're like, you have to be on, like you're showing up and you have that energy. I didn't have that so much, but I started putting the energy that I did have into other things, like, creating some smaller courses and things like that. Towards the end of 1 year, I really started to notice a dip in that SEO because new content wasn't going out. And what I ended up doing with that, because I wasn't ready to go back on social health wise, and I wasn't ready to go back mentally and emotionally. I just didn't want to. Like, it just takes so much time and energy. And I'm like, I really love not doing this. And so I ended up shifting my marketing strategy to doing more collaborations when I could take collaborations on. So things like this, and then doing ads, getting into ads. And that second year was great because of that. So I just replaced a time intensive marketing strategy with a different marketing strategy that didn't need as much of my time. I could have a couple good days here or there to create some new content for ads, and they would run for a few months and kind of do their thing. Through that second year, towards the end of that second year into the third year, I really started to notice a difference then. And I think this is specific to my niche because I do business consulting and coaching. People have an expectation that I am going to be on certain platforms or on every platform, right? The expectation is there in the industry. And so what I was seeing was people were commenting on my ads. Are you still in business? You're not on social. You haven't posted on Instagram in a long time. You haven't posted on YouTube in a long time. I have no idea why anybody thinks somebody would be running ads and not be in business, but that
Right.
was what we were seeing. And so the conversion started to drop because now it was, I can't like see this ad, go to the profile, see some recent content to kind of validate the buying decision in the ad. I now need to I'm questioning it. Like, is this a legitimate person? Do they really know what they're talking about? All of that sort of thing. And so that's what spurred me to get back into social in a really kind of slow, organic way. Like, let me just put some fresh content out there, mostly like as I feel inspired, not heavy hitting, not trying to post every day, not trying to do a new video every single week, but just like being present, still focusing on ads, still focusing on emails, still focusing on the other aspects of the marketing. And that has been a lot better. With where I'm going now, as my health is getting better and the expectation that my specific audience has, I know that I need to increase social because of my business, because of my goals in my business. So I always want to be clear with somebody, like, just because I'm doing it doesn't mean you have to do it, doesn't mean you need to do it, doesn't mean you should do it. There are certain things that we have to and we can talk about these. There's things that you have to examine to understand, is it actually necessary? And if so, how much is necessary? What does that actually look like? And so now I'm going back into it. And let me tell you, girl, like, it is a whole new world. I'm like, feel like all of my systems and processes are totally different, and the content strategy is different. And so it's just taking me a little bit of time to get back up to speed. But it has been fun also to play around with it and experiment with it and find a new rhythm. Granted, at the same time, I have a team that can help me with things too. So if I was still acting as a solopreneur, I would probably be doing very different things, probably still on social because of the demand from my audience, but not to the extent that I'm trying to push it. So all of that to say, like, the SEO piece was what enabled me to take a step back. I think if I had taken a not too much of a smaller step back, but still maintained some small presence, that
Mhm.
probably would have allowed me to extend that a lot longer.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I was going to ask about having a team. Like, where are you currently? What platforms are you on? Are you on a lot of them? And are you doing a lot of the work, or is your team doing some of the work, right?
So, yes. So I am doing a lot of the work right now because I'm trying to wrap my head around the new changes and trends. I don't use social media personally. Like, I
Mhm.
don't sit there and scroll Instagram. I use YouTube, but I use it more like, I'm learning something, I'm looking for something, or I'm completely like wanting to zone out for an hour and watch funny dog videos. Like, that is my two worlds, and that's it. So I'm spending a lot of time getting to know what's trending, what's working, how are the algorithms working, playing around with different ideas, testing different things. That piece of it is mine. The content, like strategizing, coming up with content ideas, creating content ideas, that piece is mine for now. That is a piece that I would love to be outsourcing soon because my zone of genius, the way that I work, is more in ask me a question and I can answer it, but sitting here trying to come up with like a clever way to do something or like dancing in a reel, that is just not that's not on brand for me. I don't we'll see. We'll see what happens in a year from now. Never say never, right? But I do that piece of it. I do the thinking and the creating piece of it. I outsource any video editing goes to a video editor. That video editor takes reels from the long form piece of video. If I have created a reel, that goes to the editor. He creates the reel for it. I do the like writing of the captions and things like that, but I have well trained my chat GPT to help me with this in terms of like, here's exactly what I need. Here's my voice. Here's my brand. Here's my messaging. That took a long time, but that helps that process quite a bit. And then I have a team that will help me, like my VA will help me get things posted, get things scheduled to go out for promotions. And I have somebody who helps me manage like comments and DMs and things like that as well. Just basically standing in that position of like directing people to the right resources or a sales call or whatever it might be. And so even with that, like even with a team right now, it's really a lot. The platforms that I am playing with is YouTube always, 100%. If somebody can get their business on YouTube, if it makes sense for them, be on YouTube because it's the second largest search engine and there's an algorithm. So the search engine is promoting you out to people. And there's a big emphasis right now, especially on smaller algorithm is really friendly to smaller channels right now. So I'm doing long form, I'm doing short form, I'm doing community posts, I'm doing Instagram reels, posts, stories, so much. I'm playing around on LinkedIn. I've never been on LinkedIn, so I'm really just going on there for fun right now and like examining. It's a totally different arena. It is one that I would say if your audience is professionals or business owners, I would say LinkedIn above Instagram because again, the algorithm is friendlier, it's easier to connect with people, and it's a very transparent platform. Everybody knows you're there to network. So if you don't feel bad about talking about business and about giving advice and about connecting with people in that way, it's a very different energy over there. What else are we doing? I feel like I'm missing some. We do some Pinterest, but it's just kind of like, well, we'll just throw these things up on Pinterest too. And then I have a school group. So I moved off of Facebook because so much of our audience, like they may use social, but they're moving more and more away from it. And so I put our community, like I have a free mastermind that's on school. And so school is like a platform that's kind of like Facebook groups, but it's just groups. There's no other distractions. There's no ads. It's a very community based. And so we're doing things through that group as well. It just saying all of this, Gabe, is like, oh my gosh, it's so much. I feel tired just hearing all of it. And I want to reiterate, like the only reason I can do this is because I have a team. I'm at a place in my business where like I don't manage everything to do with the school group. I don't manage all of my ads. I don't do like so many different things in my business I'm hands off on so that I can focus on clients. I can focus on students, like support in the courses, and I can focus now on the content and the marketing and collaborations and showing up and things like that. I can put my face and my voice where it's needed because I have the team to outsource to everybody else. And if that wasn't the case, like if I wasn't growing a bigger and bigger business and I just wanted a solopreneur business, I could totally get away with no social. I could totally get away with a simpler plan. And again, that's where it really comes down to like, you've got to determine what your business needs and then design a marketing plan around that because there is no one right way to do it. And if you can't sustain something, if you can't love something enough to at least make peace with it, you're not going to keep up with it.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's like my biggest message is let's figure out a marketing plan that works for you, that you'll work, that you'll enjoy. I mean, there's going to be hard work and we might not enjoy everything, but there should be certain aspects like the marketing piece. Find the things that light you up, find the things that are in your wheelhouse and don't do the other things. It's okay.
It is okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to love it. You just have to not hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just find the things that work for you, work for your strengths, work for your business, work for your audience, and then maximize those things and don't worry about the rest. Like there are so many ways to market a business The number one thing is you have to be able to sustain it.
Exactly. Sustain it, maintain it, and be willing to keep going with it. Because otherwise, if we get too far down, if we go into burnout or we want to quit, all these things.
Yeah.
So that's the importance of the marketing plan. I'd love to also like kind of dive into current marketing trends
Yeah.
and why they make it feel so hard for us to be able to step away from social media.
This is my pet peeve. This is where I'm like social media is both the best and the worst thing that's ever happened to us. So I spent last year, as I'm like, my health is coming back and I'm looking at, okay, here's what's happening, what I'm seeing in my business in terms of trends. I really spent a good 6 months doing market research. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I will harp on market research till the cows come home. I will die on this hill. You have to know how to do good market research. And it looks different for different people. If you're in the beginning of the business, you may not have to do this type of in-depth market analysis, but I'm doing like competitor analysis, the whole 9 yards. And some of the things that I was learning along the way is, number one, we are moving more away from search and more towards social, and we're moving more towards AI search, right? So people are going less to Google, or if they go to Google, it's something like 70 or 80% of Google searches don't even result in a click. Why?
Mm,
Because Google's now giving them the answer right at the top. I don't know why Google is shooting themselves in the foot this way. They really are. They must have some bigger plan in play to phase out other things, which is going to hurt a lot of businesses, which is really sad. You will notice that the only time that AI doesn't show up is if Google can put ads right there, right? So we're seeing this. So people are seeing SEO drop off because of that. But people are going to TikTok for search engines now. They're going to Instagram, they're going to YouTube. I think in part because Google and these other places have kind of failed, right? Like you go to search something and you get like a BuzzFeed article and you're like, this is not what I'm looking for. And so depending on your audience, like my husband has a carpentry business. His audience still goes to Google. We target ads on Google for him. We don't do any social whatsoever. Like it'd be great if he did a little bit, but it's not a big deal. That works for him because that's where his audience is going. Whereas for my audience, they're not going to Google to search business consulting. They're going to YouTube. They're going to Instagram. Some of them are going to TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. Girl, hopefully I can avoid TikTok. That's just like a whole nother arena. But so we're seeing this shift away from how people are looking for their answers, looking for businesses, right? And as businesses, we always want to know, where are people going to search for businesses like us? Because that's high intense search volume. That's people that are like ready to buy. And that's where we want to be showing up. So that shift is changing. I think what we're going to see, as like TikTok has a pretty good search engine, Instagram is trying to improve their search engine. So as those things improve, we're going to see that shift continue. And that's going to really stink. I'm not excited about that. What we're also seeing is an expectation from an audience that you are on every platform. It's called omnipresence marketing, where they expect you to be everywhere to some degree. This looks different for every business, but there is this expectation now because as businesses, we've set that expectation. We've told people we're going to be everywhere. So unless you are like a solopreneur, kind of a niche type of thing, or you are in a certain industry, there's going to be an expectation. So even if they find you one place, what's happening now is they're pulling you up on another place to validate their buying decision. Like, I saw your ad, let me go and scope you out on social, or I Googled you, or somebody referred you, let me go and scope you out on these different places, whatever their platform of choice is. And again, this comes down to, you've got to know your audience and you've got to know their platforms. Where are they going to look for you? Where are they going to internet stalk you after they've found you? Because that's where we need to be showing up to some degree. And we're going to talk about using it as a business card, because sometimes that is all you really need, is that opportunity to just educate them in that way, in the format that they want. We're also seeing this trend of like every single platform needs a different approach, right? LinkedIn, you're doing very informational, kind of dry. You can add some humor, you can add some stuff, but it's not a TikTok dance, right? Like you are going to get laughed off that platform if you do that. YouTube, where it's a distracting platform, but it's very informational based. It's got to be very visual versus Instagram can be a video, but it can be a very personal video where you're just kind of talking to somebody for 60 seconds. So we're seeing all these different approaches. What I am really seeing is that um, the shift that is happening is forcing smaller brands, it's forcing smaller like solopreneurs to get very strategic. They can get away with less, many times they can get away with none, but it will end up depending on your niche. And so what I'm having all of my clients do is like, you need to talk to your audience, your ideal clients. Where did they find you? Where do they expect you to be? And then how are they using that platform? Because like my audience expects me to be on Instagram, but they don't necessarily use Instagram a lot themselves. And so how much do I actually need to be there? And in what capacity do I need to be there? That's going to look very different. So we're seeing all of these trends. We're seeing the AI, we're seeing the shift in search volume, we're seeing the expectation of the audience. The other thing that I see that applies to my industry in like business consulting and coaching, but I think it applies to any coaching and consulting that we're doing, especially coaching that's more popular, mindset, life coaching, health coaching. We are seeing a greater skepticism. So people are coming in and they're like, they don't believe you, right? Like it's so easy to fake testimonials. Like we have tons and tons of testimonials, but they were things that people had written and sent through email. And so we write them up and we put them pretty on the site. Now we're pushing towards like, leave us a test pilot review because that can't be faked, right? So we're seeing that sort of thing as well. People, because of that skepticism, people want to go on social and they want to get to know you more. They want to understand who you are, where you're coming from. Is this person, right for me? And then along with that, the other trend is that when they go onto social, like now we have this expectation that people are giving away so much, right? There's so much content out there that there is more relationship building that needs to happen in that content and like through DMs and through comments and like really just connecting with people. I think in part this is because of COVID, like we got really online and really disconnected and now we don't trust it, like we realize the shallowness of it and we're craving more of that connection. And so being able to show up in a way that really helps us to, what's the word, like authenticate who we are and what we're doing, there's that need as well. And so people, because they're expecting all of this free content, they like, we're putting so much more out there. We need to make sure that we're doing so in a way that's still going to lead people to the next step. So that trend of like, well, why should I get your course? Why should I work with you? I can just like Google it. I can just find the content. That has always been the case, but I think I'm starting to notice that more people are burning out on content. They're burning out on ideas. And so when we can lean into that connection and that if there's any level of personalization or support or anything behind what you're offering, that's going to help kind of bridge that gap as well. That was a little meandery, but essentially those are the things that we're seeing and that we need to keep in mind as we're designing our marketing so that we can say, okay, how does this apply to my business? Again, because it's not for everybody. And then what can that look like? Like according to my strengths and my bandwidth, where do I show up? How do I show up? So that I'm able to make those connections, so that I'm able to overcome any skepticism. So I'm able to offer enough value that somebody can say, okay, this is somebody I want to pay attention to, but ensuring that that value is leading them into a deeper conversation with you. So it's like content that makes them need your lead magnet, right? Or content that makes them crave your newsletter. They want to hear more from you. They can't get in, like, but there's that fine line between like, giving enough away without giving so much away that it's like, cool, I've got this. I can go and do this. I'll come back to you when I need more. You know, I don't think we need to worry about giving too much away in the sense of like holding back so much, but we do need to know like what do we give away and what do we put behind a paywall so that people can come in and actually learn on a deeper level. So yeah,
That,
lots of trends. Lots of
yeah,
things.
things shift all the time. And I feel like this shift has been a bigger shift than it has in the past. And I like how you talked about the market research piece, not just asking them where they hang out, but also where they expect you to hang out, because that can help us in our marketing plan. Now, if they expect you to hang out on TikTok and you just hate TikTok, I still wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't go there. But I'd
Find
still
a different
think what
audience.
aligns. Right. Yeah, exactly. Find what aligns, because honestly, your people are going to be on any of the platforms, but it's good to hear like where do they want you to be
Mhm.
and see if you can mesh with that. And the other thing is the nurturing of relationships. So important, like building that trust and connection, because it is harder to make a sale these days because there's so much out there. There's so much AI and all the things. They can just at your fingertips, you can get answers for
Yeah.
pretty much anything that you're looking for. And so it's really about building that relationship and knowing Tara is the voice I want in my life. She's the coach I want, right? Like that's what we're working.
Yeah. And we have to understand that all marketing should do two things. It should attract your right audience and repel the wrong audience. And the way that we do that is with what we're teaching, how we're teaching it, the personality that we have. Every single thing you do is attracting and repelling. So that's a good thing. But we want to remember that, like, as we're going into this, it's okay. It's okay to say like, okay, these people want me on TikTok. I'm not going to shine on TikTok. This is not going to be my jam. There are people that are like, everybody on TikTok is on YouTube as well, right? Everybody that's on Instagram is listening to podcasts too. Like find the thing that is going to be your strength that you can definitely sustain and go with that. I when I was initially starting this consulting business, this was like 8 years ago almost now. All of the market research I got was, oh, I listen to podcasts, I listen to podcasts, I listen to podcasts. And I'm like, I love podcasts, I'll listen to them. But I don't like podcasts as a business owner because it's not very search friendly. Like I can go to a podcast and I'm like trying to search a certain topic and I like it's so difficult to know if you've got a good topic or not. You can't tell. The SEO is just terrible. And so I was like, I'm just going to do YouTube. I know my people are hanging out on YouTube. I'm just going to do YouTube. And I just let the podcast go. I could have duplicated. I could have taken it and put it on podcasts. That would have been fine. But I just doubled down on what I knew was going to better work for me and my business, knowing that I could find an audience there as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think aligning with yourself, your goals, and then also your target audience is truly important. Seeing that like Venn diagram, where do they meet and where do they
Exactly.
intersect?
Exactly.
Um,
It's a sweet
so
spot between what they need and what you need, really.
yeah, exactly. And I think this really ties into determining if your business needs social at all,
Yeah.
or how much. So, can you talk to us a little bit about tips on how to determine this?
Yeah. So 100% do not guess. If you are thinking about it, you're guessing. Okay. We're not thinking. This is not up to us. What you want to do is go out and find your top clients, your top customers, people who come back to you again and again, people you want 100 more of. And you're going to ask them a couple questions. This is not a poll. This is not a survey. You're not putting this out on social. You're not sending this out as an email broadcast. You're doing individual reach outs to like 10, 20, 30 people, as many as you can. And you're just asking them, hey, I'm doing a little bit of market research to help me you can use these exact words. I'm doing some market research to help me understand my own marketing plan and what's going to work for my audience. Can I ask you a couple questions? So that's like 2 sentences is all you're sending them. And then you're waiting for them to come back to you. You can do this through DM. You can do this through text message. You can do it through an email. Just expect to have to follow up because, email. And then you're going to send them just a couple questions. Number one, where do you go to search for offers or businesses like mine? Are you going to Google? Are you going to Yelp? Are you asking friends? Are you going into groups? Are you going into forums? You might have to give them some ideas, but like Where did you go to find me? How did you first find me? And then where do you go if you were looking for me? Where would you go? This is really important because we need to understand. Like, so when you look at a marketing funnel, the top level is awareness, right? That is the biggest part of our job, is to bring awareness to the fact that we even exist. You can have the best business in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it's not going to go anywhere. So our job is to figure out what is the best, easiest way to make people aware of our business. And that's always going to be showing up where they are going to search for you, not just where they're hanging out. Everybody talks about, like, be where your audience is hanging out. But if they're on Instagram only to follow their niece's, ballet recitals, they're not going to find you there. You can post there all you want, but that's not how they're using that platform. So where do they go to search for solutions, to search for anything that you offer? Where are they going to find it? That's where you want to show up. You can show up there with content. You can show up there with ads. You can show up there with collaborations. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but you want to figure out, just first of all, where do they go to search for you? The second question you're going to ask is, once you find businesses like mine, is there anywhere else you go to validate the decision? Like, are you internet stalking businesses like mine? Do you go to certain platforms to, like, verify who they are? Are you looking at Google reviews? Are you looking at Trustpilot reviews? Are you asking around for, friends if they've ever been to this coffee shop before? Like, what are you doing to validate? Some people, if it's like a coffee shop, what are they going to do? They're going to go on Google. They're going to look at Google reviews. They're going to slide through the photos, and that's all they need. So that's all you need to focus on, is like, how do we drive reviews to that Google review, right? That's all my husband needs. Like, he needs some Google ads. He needs his reviews going on a regular basis, and he's good to go. Other people, it's going to look a little bit different. I have a client who's a yoga studio owner. People are not searching for her in her area. It's a local area. They don't even understand yoga. Like, they think it's something completely different than what it is. Her vibe is very different. And so she has to actually go out into the community and bring people into her. She's doing ads that are like going out to find people. It's a totally different arena when people don't really understand you yet, or you've got to do that educating. But when they find her, what are they doing? They're going to go to Instagram. They're going to search her. She's not trying to go viral on Instagram. She's just trying to be present, to talk to the people who have already found her, that want to validate their decision. Now, and I want to say this, and I almost brought this up before. Not only do people feel skeptical about you, but they may feel skeptical about themselves. In other words, like, yeah, this person sounds good, but I know myself. Right? Yoga sounds great, but I'm not flexible, or I know myself, I'm not going to do the classes. And so we need to know those types of things as well, because what we're putting out there should address what's going on in the back of their mind as well. So that's the second question. Where are they going to internet stalk you after they find you? And then on those platforms, what do they expect to see? What do they need to see that they're aware of? So what are they looking for? And then what do you know they need that's going to help them address that skepticism in you or in themselves, and address any questions or concerns, even ones they're not conscious of, to help them take that next step? So those are the questions that you want to ask people. You want to follow advice only from your favorite clients and customers. Again, people you want 100 more of, listen to them, because patterns tend to repeat themselves in other people. If you are listening to somebody you don't want more of, you're going to find more people like them. And so ask them those questions, and then sit down and look at all of their answers on a whole, and put it together, and focus on what's going to be the biggest bang for your buck, and what can you do to use minimal viable marketing for anything else that's needed. So, like, you don't want to be on Instagram, but they're going to Instagram. Cool. Let's set up a business card profile so they can go, they can find you. Minimum viable marketing. You're there, you're present, but it doesn't have to be the primary source of that awareness piece. It's just there. So when we look at the marketing funnel, it's awareness, and then interest, and then consideration. Your business profile can just be interest and consideration. It doesn't have to be this ongoing effort of new content every single day.
I love that too, because it's so important for us to be able to focus on the places that are working for us, focus on nurturing the students we have, the clients we have, all of that.
Yeah.
But also being out there so people can find you. And that's one thing I like about the business card profile. Mine is set up. I have Instagram and Facebook. I
Yeah.
left it with a message saying I'm not here, contact
Yeah.
me here, but it does essentially have a profile up and running so people can see where I hang out. I'd
Yeah.
like to do this business card approach just to
Yeah.
freshen it up a bit. But for those who don't know what that means, can you kind of dive into how to use a platform as a business?
Yeah. So essentially, you are thinking of this almost like a website or a landing page, right? You're going to walk them through a journey of what they need to know, what their questions are, conscious or unconscious, the things that are going to help them have trust in you, trust in themselves. You're setting this up in the bio, in the highlights, in the pinned posts, and in at least 9 posts. Sometimes I will say, like, if you've had a bunch of posts in the past, leave them there. If this is a brand new thing, I would probably say do more than 9, because what happens is people go to the posts and they go and they just start scrolling and they're looking at everything, and they will go through 9 posts in like 3 minutes flat tops, right? Like maybe 30 seconds. So we want to give them enough that they have enough to go through, and it's taking them through an entire journey. It's taking them through almost like a sales page would take them through a journey, or a sales conversation would take them through a journey. We're really taking them from like, here's where you are, to education and value, and here's what we're about, and here's how we can support you. Maybe here's some quick wins depending on your niche. Here's what you need to know about us. So like, for instance, my yoga studio client, she could do a post that's just like driving up into the parking lot and walking in, and going into the studio and putting out the mat. Why? Because it's answering a question in somebody's mind of, what is this like? This is new. I've never been there, right? If I go to a restaurant, I go to Google and I'm looking at the pictures. I want to get an idea of what it looks like before I go. We're doing the same thing. We're answering this question that they're not even conscious of like, I'm going to feel awkward going in. I don't know where it's at. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what to expect. We're taking some of that out by just creating that little piece of content that's like, join us for a day at the studio, and we're showing this step by step. So we're looking really strategically at these posts to make sure that they're answering these questions and they're warming somebody up, and each post can lead them to some sort of call to action. If it's an opt-in, if it's a book a call, if it's a come into the coffee shop, whatever it might be, we can lead them with each piece. Each one can have a call to action, but it's you want enough there. You need to know what enough is going to look like to be able to walk them through that journey, so that when they find you and they're scrolling, they can immediately like, okay, I'm ready now. Let me take this next step. I will say this: when I left Instagram, my last post was, I'm leaving Instagram. And I kind of regret doing that. I would actually, like, if I had to do it over again, I would do my top posts, because I didn't change anything about my posts at the time. I was just like bouncing, peace, I'm out. I would be more strategic with the content. I would not have the I'm leaving post be the top post. And instead, what I would probably do is like every maybe 6 to 9 months, go in and take those posts down and start reposting them, so that they just look a little bit fresher. And that's what somebody can do if they want to keep it looking fresh. If you create 18, 20, 30 posts and you just recycle through them, you delete the old one and you pop it up into the new one, that is a way to keep it fresh without you having to create anything new. And again, the goal is not to go viral. The goal is not to get a bunch of vanity likes. It's not to get a bunch of follows. This is if your audience is finding you elsewhere, going to Instagram to validate the decision, and they want to see that you're still active. They want to feel like you're still in business. This way, like every Monday, there's a new post, even though it's the same exact post that you posted, 6 months ago. They don't know that, and they don't care.
Mm. I love that so much, because I was going to ask about the maintenance. Like, how do you maintain it then? Do you just set it
Yeah.
and forget it, or do you have to refresh every so often? But I like
It
what you say, just
depends.
having those posts, deleting, adding again. You
Yeah.
say it depends. So, what are some things to think about in it?
It depends on your audience's expectations. This is where we need to ask them. Like my husband doesn't have an Instagram at all, right? But he has a Facebook page, and every once in a while he'll post stuff on there. People don't expect him to have a social media presence, right? Like that's not an expectation from his audience. They're not going to follow him on Instagram and like watch all of his work. Like that's just not something that he's trying to do. And so if they go to those things, they don't need to see fresh posts. They would just need to see like, okay, examples of his work. It's like a portfolio, and that's enough. And he can even, if you have a niche like that, you could put something in there of like, you know, we're busy working with our clients, but enjoy this portfolio, so that people understand how you're using the platform. But if it looks like the content was content, like fresh content, and then it stopped, and they do have the expectation that you're on there, then it might be worthwhile to like, okay, I'm going to take these posts. I would probably myself just dump a whole bunch of new ones all at once just to get something up, and then start recycling a little bit at a time. Test it, play around, see what's actually necessary, because not everybody, even if there's that expectation, not everybody will find that it's necessary if your people just understand it, or based on how you set up the bio, or based on how you, again, based on your niche, your audience, all of those things go into the right way to do it. I get a really big thorn in my side when you hear these coaches out there that are like, if you're not on Instagram, you're not relevant. How are you even going to stay relevant if you're, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Do you know how many businesses are not on Instagram? Like, it's just such immature advice to think that everything needs to look the same way for every business, and that there's one right way to do it. The right way to do it is the way that's going to align with you and your audience. And that's it. If it aligns with your niche, your goals, and what your audience needs in order to buy something from you, that's like, there really is no one right way. There's a lot of trends. There's a lot of things that are working for a lot of people, but you get to really, customize that to yourself. So test it, play around with it, see what works. And if you're just like, I don't want to be on Instagram, drop a bunch of posts, optimize it, and be done with it. It's fine. It'll probably be fine for a couple of years. At some point, you'll probably want to go in and make some, updated. Maybe you just repost the top 3 over and over again, because those are the dates they're going to notice first, and then they're not going to notice the rest of them, right? Like, this can really be simple. I think, though, that simple should not be not strategic. That's the most important piece, is that the content is going to bridge the gap. It's going to take people from one place to the next. So if it's just lazy content, throwing up a couple quotes, don't bother. Really think about, this is a sales page. What does my audience need? What questions do they have? What are the hesitations? How do I answer those things in these posts? That's when you're going to really see a big difference from the profile. You might not be able to track the difference. That's one of the trends that we're seeing right now, is it's very difficult to attribute where things are coming from because people are popping all over. But you'll notice a difference when you have strategic content. You'll notice more of a difference than if you're just throwing up some stuff like, hey, I'm not here, come follow me over there. That works too. No problem with it. But when you really think of it like a sales page, that's when you really start to see what's happening on it.